Former Marcy Corrections Officer David Kingsley was sentenced to the murder of inmate Robert Brooks on Friday morning. Kingsley received the maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison at the request of prosecutors. The convicted murderer was found guilty by trial in Oneida County Court on October 20. He was convicted on both a murder and a manslaughter charge in connection with Brooks' death. Tyrone Bowman Live, I will show you the video of the sentencing in a few moments. So let's check it out here. Let me get things situated on my end. So this is part 1, and I will bring you part 2 of the sentencing that took place. There were 4 officers who were sentenced. 3 accepted offers by the district attorney's office. David Kingsley was the only one who decided not to accept the offer from the prosecutors. So let's find out what's happening here. This is sensitive in nature. But let's get down to it. And I'm going to pick it up where they're bringing him into the courtroom.
David Kingsley, indictment 25035. Back on October 20th, the defendant was convicted after jury trial of both counts 1 and 2 submitted to the jury. That is murder second degree as well as manslaughter first degree. We were adjourned to today's date for sentencing. The people who have sentenced. Would you like to be heard?
Briefly, before I speak, there are 2 members of Mr. Brooks' family who have been given leave to make a victim impact statement. At this time, I would first welcome Robert Brooks Jr. to the podium to make his statement.
Oh, look, I'm getting a call from one of those unknown numbers.
Have you tried reversephone.com?
Now I have to start the video all over again because of a commercial that came in.
Against David Kingsley, indictment 25035. Back on October 20th, the defendant was convicted after jury trial of both counts 1 and 2 submitted to the jury. That is murder second degree as well as manslaughter first degree. We were adjourned to today's date for sentencing. The people who have sentenced.
We so move, Your Honor.
Would you like to be heard?
Briefly, Your Honor, before I speak, there are 2 members of Mr. Brooks' family who have been given leave to make a victim impact statement. At this time, I would first welcome Robert Brooks Jr. to the podium to make his statement.
I deliberately want this closed caption removed. One of the Brooks family members taking the podium, victim impact statement. As you can see, he's scrolling to his phone to get the statement read.
Last December, I watched you beat my father to death on camera. Showed my dad no mercy at all. You treated my dad like he was an object and not a human. Watching your actions on camera felt like I was stuck in a horror movie and you guys were the monsters. I felt broken and there was nothing I could do. I will never get my dad back, but I do pray that your loved ones never have to endure the kind of pain I experienced. All of this could have been avoided if you and your other officers just did your job. My dad would still be alive. One thing I learned over the past year in this case that matters to a lot of people not just my family, but incarcerated people and their families all across the state. So many people are living with pain and fear about what this case has exposed. What happened in this courtroom matters. So I pray that the courtroom imposes a sentence severe enough to tell correctional officers that they cannot treat incarcerated people like animals. And I pray that this court imposes a sentence severe enough to tell incarcerated people that their lives matter. Thank you.
At this time, Your Honor, the people would ask Jared Brooks, the brother of Robert Brooks, to make his statement.
And now deceased Mr. Brooks' brother is taking the podium for victim impact
Good
statement.
morning, Judge Bowman. As I've sat in this courtroom over the last year and listened to the evidence Mr. Fitzpatrick and his team have presented, I appreciate the care and attention you've given to the facts and the law in this case. As you previously stated, the number of lives that have been directly affected by my brother's murder is unthinkable, and I couldn't agree more. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are the inherent rights declared by our founding fathers and to be protected by governing bodies. As you know, life comes first in that statement. It is my understanding that once you are deemed an incarcerated individual, you must forfeit certain civil rights, but life is not one of those. Unfortunately, my brother was taken before he finished serving his debt to society, and his right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness can never be restored. Imagine how vigorously a man would pursue happiness upon a joyful, long-awaited homecoming from prison. My brother will never be able to experience that. I've been searching for happiness since I've got the news, and I think I'll be searching for it for quite some time. I wouldn't wish this trifecta on Mr. Kingsley or his co-defendants or anyone. I ask that Mr. Kingsley receive a sentence that fits his key role in my brother's brutal killing, and also his inability to take responsibility for his actions. I can't say I respect the men that stood behind that podium last month and accepted their 22 years, but I will say taking responsibility is a step in the right direction. My brother used to say to err is human, to forgive is divine. For us, forgiveness will take a long road. Just like the path through grief and the trudge towards justice, today I hope justice is served.
Do not get a consolidation loan until you see.
I really care about all these celebrities whose prime is over and now they're making cheap commercials.
Johnson, anything further from the people?
Yes, Your Honor. As always, there really isn't much more that we can add when it comes to the loss that the Brooks family suffered. That's their province. That's what they understand. What we are here to talk about, what I'm here to talk about now, is the taking, the way in which they suffered that loss. Now, the facts in this case are clear, and they always have been. From the very beginning, this case has always been about the video. It's been about what that video showed. And it showed Mr. Kingsley from the very beginning, one of the first images we all saw when the media released those videos. Mr. Kingsley carrying Mr. Brooks' feet as he was face down, arms up behind him, blood already on his face as he got dragged into that infirmary, and as he got thrown on that gurney where he would spend most of the last conscious moments of his life. But that was not Mr. Kingsley's only involvement. We've been adamant from the beginning of this case. This is not a one-injury homicide. This is not one thing that killed Robert Brooks. It's a constellation. But among that constellation, what happened to Mr. Brooks' neck burns brightest. And we heard at that trial extensively from Dr. Merkelova damage to the cartilage of Mr. Brooks' thyroid area, a broken hyoid bone, hemorrhaging all through his neck from even pressure. From even pressure that we watched Mr. Kingsley put on Mr. Brooks' neck. As in his entire 300-pound frame, he lifted a 140-pound restrained man off a table by his throat. For no reason. None. That's where that damage came from. But even then, when Mr. Brooks hit the table again, after Mr. Kingsley lifted him up, after he wrenched him by his neck, Mr. Brooks was still alive. He was still somewhat with it. Until Mr. Kingsley and Mr. Anzalone held Mr. Brooks against the wall for 4 minutes. while he went limp, while he was doing nothing, while clearly the life was leaving him. And still Mr. Kingsley held him. And Your Honor, we don't always ask for the maximum as a matter of course in trial cases. We don't. It's not our office's policy. It's not Mr. Fitzpatrick's, Mr. Woodfork's. It's not mine. We ask for the appropriate, just sentence. And in this case, there were already other major players here who have been promised 22 years in prison. The major difference between Mr. Kingsley and them is not that Mr. Kingsley took his chances on trial. That was his right. The difference is that Mr. Kingsley made Mr. Brooks's family sit in the courtroom surrounded by people they didn't know and watch somebody they love die. And watch his face as blood was pouring down it, as the air was failing to reach his brain. And they were left dealing with that because of him. Because he alone, of every major player who inflicted horrible injuries on Mr. Brooks as he was helpless and he was in their care, he alone insisted on not taking responsibility for what he did. And it's for that, Your Honor, for that horror that was inflicted on Mr. Brooks' family over and above Mr. Brooks' death, that we are asking this court to impose the maximum sentence allowed by law of 25 years to life on murder in the second degree and 25 years to manslaughter in the first degree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Mr. Nequist, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. First, I'd like to acknowledge I've been unable for the past year to send my personal condolences to Brooks family. And I do send my prayers and sympathies to them. I think during this trial, in my representation of Mr. Kingsley for the past year, that was a statement of personal level. I don't need to go through the personal characteristics now, as Your Honor has read through the approximately 30 character letters that I provided to the court. They show a man of compassion and caring. A correctional officer that spent years behind the bars of the correctional facility protecting and saving lives and lives of the incarcerated individuals there. The incident took place that day, and throughout, long before this trial started and during the trial and after it, I constantly heard that this was some sort of welcoming committee. That many of the correctional officers there were waiting in anticipation for Mr. Brooks to arrive and cause injury and pain to correct maybe his behavior. When this incident occurred, Mr. Kingsley was in a completely different building. He didn't know Mr. Brooks was coming in. He didn't know Mr. Brooks. He didn't know of any hostile behavior issues, Mr. Brooks. This incident wasn't like.
Pardon the interruption, ladies and gentlemen. I'm listening to David Kingsley's attorney. Strikingly, the one thing that stands out in his statement is that he said that the officers were standing by as a welcoming committee to teach Mr. Brooks a lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, I know many people will look at this and they will think that it's justifiable that a now convicted murderer, a former corrections officer, they think these people are justified in breaking the law. When a person has been adjudicated in the court of law, they've already been punished. They've already been sentenced. When they go to prison, they're already fulfilling the terms of what the judge judiciously has rendered upon him or her. Often, too many times, these COs want to be Almighty God, judge, jury, and executioner. And their personal pet beliefs, their racist bias towards certain people, They feel as though because they're backed by a corrupt system, in many instances, that they can say and do and get away with anything. I saw that video. I looked at the video in its entirety. And this man right here, as you can see, who will pretend that he's sorry, was more vicious than the rest of the officers. Let's get back to the sentencing.
Sparked by a few correctional officers who found Mr. Brooks alive. Mr. Kingsley responded. And I think that's important because Mr. Kingsley was not indifferent to Mr. Brooks' life. And if he were part of that welcoming committee or the people that united this, then that may show that depraved or indifference to Mr. Brooks' life. And I think what shows that the most is after this incident, and it wasn't shown during the trial, but when Mr. Kingsley learned that Mr. Brooks was not responsive because of medical reasons, he was the first to perform CPR. And the CPR that was performed was an effort to save his life, not take it, not to inflict injury. And that is the person that I got to know this past year. The person that cares and the person that tries to help and the person that wants to save lives. Unfortunately, this incident was sparked and ignited by a few other officers. Mr. Brooks were caught up in that. And I think that should be taken into consideration in sentencing Mr. Kingsley. I hope you're on the...
Ladies and gentlemen, Tyrone Bowman, I've got to pause and take a break for a moment. Thank you, everybody. You're watching the sentencing hearing for now convicted ex-former corrections officer David Kingsley and the death of Mr. Brooks. Now, what's alarming is how his defense attorney, and I understand he's defending his client, and so he wants to present his client in the best possible light before the judge. But what's alarming is that he keeps using the term welcoming committee. There's no welcoming committee when you come to prison. I've been to prison, so I know. There's nothing that you can tell me about the intricacies of the criminal justice system. I know the ins and outs, the ups and downs, and the in-between about it. I was there for an entire decade. There's nothing welcoming about it. They do not welcome you. There is no red carpet treatment. You don't get preferential treatment like some political candidates have, where they go into the courtroom and turn around and walk out. What they did was deliberate. They intentionally murdered the man and didn't care. The supposed CPR was in an effort to try to cover up for the death that they committed, and then they tried to justify it. But what they didn't count on the fact that the video would be released to the press and that people would be outraged by what they saw. Let me be perfectly clear. I don't endorse any type of this conduct coming from any type of officer, because what he has done, he's making the job of the decent, good, constitutionally abiding police officers hard. It creates mistrust. That's why most black people, they do not cooperate with the police. When I was growing up, you couldn't get black people to snitch. Today they're called confidential informants, snitches. It's unheard of. Let's find out what Kingsley has to say after his lawyer's finished.
Taken into consideration all the character things that are provided, and those two specific facts that were drawn out during the trial. And we ask that you sentence Mr. Kingsley to 50 years to life.
Thank you, Mr. English. Mr. Kingsley, is there anything that you would like to say prior to being sentenced?
Yes, sir. Most like Mr. English here, I'd like to express my sincerest condolences to the Brooks family for the tragic loss that they suffered. I know nothing I say or do can ever change that outcome. I understand that. All of the events that happened over the last 3 days of Mr. Brooks' life should never have happened. Every single incident was senseless. Nonetheless, I would like to offer my heartfelt apologies to the Brooks family. I am so sad to think that any action of mine that is untimely death, words cannot express how truly saddened and heartbroken I am that I was involved with a tragic event that took someone's life from them. I, like many others, including the Brooks family, will have to live with that for the rest of my life.
Mr. Kingsley, be advised that you have a right to appeal this judgment of conviction. To do so, you must file a written notice of appeal. Clerk of this court, within 30 days of today's date, you may file this yourself, or you may direct that your attorney do so on your behalf. It is now the sentencing judgment of this court that the defendant is sentenced as follows. As to the conviction for murder in the second degree, the defendant is sentenced to an indeterminate sentence of imprisonment, having as its minimum 25 years in state prison, as its maximum life in state prison. As to the conviction for manslaughter, first degree, the defendant is sentenced to a determinate sentence of 25 years in state prison, along with 5 years of post-release supervision. Those sentences just imposed are ordered to run concurrent with one another. In addition, there is imposed a mandatory state surcharge, crime victim, and DNA fees totaling $375. The defendant is committed to the criminal sentence.
Let's see if there's any more to this video. If there's a little bit more, let's check it out. The one thing that I noticed at his sentencing hearing, he was treated with kid gloves, and you did not see the usual amount of police officers in the courtroom surrounding them the way that we'd be surrounding black defendants. That's the stipulated fact. I've lived it. I've been there. I know what I'm talking about. Let me personalize this. You know what? I'll talk about it on my other channel. I'm not going to talk about it on this channel. So if you want to know about that, I'll talk about that on my prison channel, Breaking the Chains. Former corrections officer David Kingsley sentenced to 25 years to life for the murder of Mr. Brooks. You know what? A word of wisdom is sufficient to the wise, to those who are working within corrections. Just do your job. Do what they hired you to do. They didn't hire you to be a jury. They didn't hire you to be an executioner. They didn't hire you to murder people. They didn't hire you to decide to bring your personal biases to work with you. Your job is the 3 C's: care, custody, and control. Care, custody, and control. That's the 3 C's of corrections. How do I know? Because I've been there. All right, I'll bring you part 2 of the story at a later date, but I want this one to circulate for a few days before I do. Tyrone Bowman, never surrender, never quit.